Hi, welcome. This is the registration information video for all 6th and 7th graders. This is brought to you by the IMS counselors, and this video is going to give you all the information you need to register for your elective classes for the 2020-2021 school year.
So what you see on this screen is a typical 7th grade day. Just to be clear, not all students have this exact schedule, but all students will have 4 core classes: math, science, language arts, and social studies. And then there'll be 2 elective periods in the day. We have a 6-period day. This is where the choices come into play. So all 7th graders will have a health requirement, but the rest of the elective periods are really going to be up to you. You have a choice as to whether or not you take PE at school. You can choose to take PE, yoga, or fitness class, or you can work with your family to figure out if they're willing to sign a waiver, which we'll talk about later. The additional blocks are elective opportunities that we'll go over later in this presentation. The 8th grade schedule is quite similar. Really, the only difference is that there's no health requirement. So 8th graders really have have one additional period to choose an elective that they'd like to do.
There are some requirements you're going to want to keep in mind when you're registering. All 7th and 8th graders need to meet their fine arts requirement. This can be done by taking band, orchestra, choir, or 2 trimesters of drama, or 2 trimesters of art. We'll explain more about those options in the slides to come. You also are required to meet your physical education requirement. There are waivers, and we'll show the waiver form that you can get a copy of at the registrar's desk or online.
So this is an example of the waiver form, and like was said before, you can pick this up at the registrar's office, or you can print it out offline, which you'll find out about later in this presentation. It's pretty self-explanatory, but I'll go over each step with you. So the directed sport activity is just what activity are you participating in outside of the school day in order to waive the PE requirement. So that can be any type of activity that's through an organization. So if you do cross country through IMS or volleyball, or you do karate through an organization, or dance, any type of physical activity through an organization. So it's not running around in your backyard in circles, but it's making sure that you are part of an organized activity, which brings us to that next line, which is what organization are you doing your activity, your physical activity through? And then what time of year are you doing it? Some of you are doing activities all year. Some of you have kind of seasonal activities, so you don't need to overthink the form. And then frequency of the activity would be exactly what it says there. Do you do this daily? Do you do weekly? Twice a week for practice? Whatever your frequency is, you don't have to be exact. Just estimate about how much you are doing the physical activity, and then the duration per session. So do you dance for an hour each day? And then a parent guardian signature and a student signature. And again, this is required in order to waive the requirement of a 1 trimester PE for 7th and 8th graders.
We have some classes which are 2 trimester electives. Those include yearbook, the art series, Art 1 and Art 2, and those actually need to be taken in the same year. And then all of our 7th grade world languages are 2 trimesters long. And just so you know, when you commit to a world language, you're committing to taking 2 trimesters in 7th grade and 3 trimesters in 8th grade.
As far as year-long elective choices, these are classes that take up 3 trimesters of a school year, and those include band, orchestra, choir, leadership, which we'll talk about later, and just as was mentioned before, the world language commitment also involves an 8th grade commitment of 3 trimesters.
So as you can see, we have a long list of trimester courses, electives, and these are listed alphabetically. And please pay attention to which courses cannot be repeated, which means you can only sign up for them once. And that's because the curriculum is the same each trimester. There are some electives that are only for 8th graders, like TA office or debate. So just make sure you're paying attention. If you're going to be in 7th grade next year, that you're not signing up for debate or TA office, and pay attention if you're in 8th grade, you'll get to sign up for those two electives. And then there's also the web elective, which we'll talk about in a later slide, but that is also only for 8th graders. So the web leader information for the web class is for students, that 7th graders who are going to apply to be web leaders and are selected as web leaders. If you think you're going to be a web leader or want to be a web leader, you also need to sign up for 1 trimester of the web class. This is a requirement if you are a web leader. Web leaders are only 8th graders, so right now this slide just pertains to the current 7th graders. And if your schedule has a conflict, like you take band and Spanish and you can't take the web class, but you still want to be a web leader, you can be a web leader. We will just work with you to make sure you get all the information that you need that you might miss from the web class. So I want to reiterate that if you want to be a web leader, but you have a conflict in your schedule in order to take the web class, you can still be a web leader. And if you have any questions, you can always connect with Ms. Klein.
This slide is to tell you more about the leadership class. This class is a year-long class and there is an application involved. So you'll want to pay attention to the announcements of when they talk about applying, and there will be some information sessions too. You've probably seen the web leader students because they run the PEP assemblies and spirit days around school.
Actually, that's the leadership students.
Okay, so what you see now is the 7th grade registration worksheet. So one of the first things you'll need to decide is whether or not you're going to take PE at school. If you decide you're going to take PE at school, you would want to focus on the left side of the sheet. Because what you'll need to do is fill out the empty boxes. First of all, health is required, so everything that's gray is going to be embedded in your schedule. You don't have to do anything regarding any of the gray classes, except when it comes to PE, we want you to circle the PE class that you're interested in taking. So you can choose to take PE, yoga, or fitness. From there, I want you to think of each box as one elective period. They each are for 1 trimester. So in this case, if you were going to take a 1 trimester elective like aerospace, you would write aerospace in this box. If you were going to take band, but we know it's a 3 trimester course, you would write band and you can draw an arrow, or you can write band, 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 whatever you're comfortable doing. But you want to be clear to indicate however long the elective is that you're choosing, that's how many boxes you write in it. This doesn't mean that if you write it here that this is going to be 5th period for you in your school day. It really is generated by the computer. We just want to know what classes are most appealing to you. So if you're going to take PE, you fill out this side. If you're not, you fill out this side. Regardless of which side you choose to complete on the worksheet, we also want you to write in any other possible electives. These are essentially your backup choices if for some reason an elective you're interested in taking is full or it doesn't work with your schedule because of things you need to be involved in. Sometimes if you are taking band and there's an elective class you want to take that's only offered in the same period as band, we need to know what else you might be willing to do. Yes, and so on the next slide, 8th grade registration worksheet, it looks quite similar. Again, if you're going to take PE, we want to know which of these choices is appealing to you. Please circle that. And then you'll fill out this side of the sheet if you want to have PE in your day. If you're opting to waiver out of PE, then you essentially have 6 boxes of elective opportunities. So you can choose to take a class that's all year. You could, in fact, take 2 all-year courses, or you could take 6 individual trimester courses. Again, don't forget to fill out the other possible electives so that we can circle back to this sheet if we find that something doesn't work for you. One last thing about this sheet, we have students who will choose to be a TA. Just to be clear, we want you to enter TA and know that it will be randomly assigned to match you with a teacher who's available to have you work with them during their chosen period.
So the next step says that in addition to filling out the worksheet, you are going to need to register online through Skyward. It's really important that you hear this part. You are going to need to register through your student account, not your parents' account. So when you go into Skyward, if you've gotten used to logging in through your parents' login, you're going to need to make sure you have your student account login. Otherwise, you will not see the option to register at all. If you need help getting logged in through your login, see one of your counselors or a registrar and we can help you with that. So the two parts that you're going to need to do is complete that worksheet, which will be returned to your Gator Time teacher, and do the online registration. Both of those are due by April 3rd. If you have any questions at all, please see your assigned counselor. Our registrar is also a great resource to you. There's going to be some drop-in sessions for students and families. If you want to look on the website and we'll show you where to find that information, feel free to come to one of those drop-in sessions. And then there's a whole bunch of resources that are on the IMS webpage, and we'll show you next how to get to those.